Imagine this. You get into your dream university, a truly world-class school. Now, what if that acceptance letter basically made it a crime for you to ever go home again? That's what we're diving into today. Russia's growing crackdown on Western universities and what it really means for the students caught right in the middle. And this quote from an anonymous Russian student, wow, it just says it all. For some of Russia's brightest young people, the dream of studying abroad has suddenly become this huge, life-altering, and maybe even permanent choice. And we're not talking about some small, obscure schools here. This is Yale University. Big, prestigious names like Yale, Stanford, and UC Berkeley are now on a list that puts their students, their faculty, and pretty much anyone connected to them in serious legal trouble back in Russia. Okay, so let's move past the big geopolitical headlines for a minute. Because at its heart, this is a human story. It's a story about young people whose entire futures have just been completely rewritten out of nowhere. I mean, listen to that. An educational journey turns into a kind of forced exile. The decision to go study at a top university now comes with this incredibly heavy price. You might not be able to safely go back home. A huge personal achievement gets turned into a harsh political reality. So you're probably asking, how is this even possible? Well, the Kremlin is using a very specific and very powerful legal weapon to make this happen. Let's break down exactly how this undesirable label works. Okay, so here's the tool, the Undesirable Organization Law from 2015. And the key word in all of this is threat. It's left so incredibly vague, it can be twisted to mean almost anything, which gives prosecutors this sweeping power to target organizations, including universities, for, well, pretty much any reason they want. And that kind of ambiguity? It's not a mistake. It's a feature, designed to make everyone uncertain. And the word cooperation is just as murky and, frankly, menacing. The stakes here are incredibly high. Just participating, which could literally just mean being a student, starts with huge fines. If you do it again, you could be looking at 4 years in prison. And if the state decides you're an organizer, that jumps up to 6 years. And make no mistake, this isn't some isolated thing affecting just a couple of schools. What we're seeing is a very clear pattern that's picking up speed and fast. So get this, the number is at least 19, and it's still growing. 19 Western academic institutions and programs have been blacklisted. That effectively cuts all their formal ties to Russia and puts thousands of people in legal danger. You can really see how quickly this has ramped up on this timeline. It all started with just one school, Bard College, back in 2021. But look at the last couple of years. The pace has just exploded, with these world-famous universities like Yale, Stanford, and Berkeley getting added one after another. So what is going on here? Why is this happening? Well, there are two totally different stories being told to explain it. Let's look at the official reason versus what critics think is actually behind all of this. So on one hand, the Kremlin says this is all about national security. It's about defending Russia from foreign influence and propaganda that's designed to destabilize the country. The argument is that these universities aren't just neutral places of learning, they're acting on behalf of foreign governments. But on the other hand, critics say, hold on, this has nothing to do with security. It's all about control. They see it as a blunt instrument to crush any form of dissent, intimidate people, and treat the very idea of academic freedom as a threat to the state itself. The impact of a policy like this, well, it spreads out like ripples in a pond, far beyond just the students at these specific schools. It creates this climate of fear that's changing the entire academic world inside Russia. And this quote from political scientist Daniel Treisman really gets to the heart of it. He says, the law's vagueness isn't a mistake, it's the whole point. Because when any contact with a Western university, even just sharing a link to a research paper, could potentially get you in trouble, what do? You stop, you self-censor, you cut ties, you just stay quiet. And that creates this huge ripple effect. You've got thousands of people facing direct legal risk. High school kids are giving up on their dreams of studying in the West. Scientists who absolutely depend on international teamwork are now totally isolated. This is, by design, a severing of intellectual ties with the rest of the world. Now, as Russia is systematically closing the door on Western academia, it's also propping open a new one. It's looking eastward, and it's charting a course toward a very different kind of international partnership. And that new direction is crystal clear. The goal is 100,000 student exchanges with China by 2030. This isn't just about a cultural exchange program. This is a strategic pivot, a total realignment of Russia's academic and scientific future, away from the West and toward partnerships with countries like China. This quote really nails the domestic political logic behind it all. Alexander Gavu from the Carnegie Russia Eurasia Center points out that if you cut off these personal, academic connections, it becomes way easier for the government to push a narrative that the West is hostile. If no one has any firsthand experience to say otherwise, well, that story becomes a lot easier to sell. All of this leads us to one last really big question. This policy creates an immediate brain drain, for sure, but the long-term damage could be so much deeper. When you systematically tell your most ambitious, your brightest students to leave and never come back, what does that do to the future of science, of innovation, of culture for an entire country? That's really the question at the very heart of this.